Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Yet Another LARP podcast with me, Mark.
I mean, Matt. Sorry.
And me, Sam.
Wow, our guest has even introduced himself today. That's good. That's very good. Very well trained.
Matt's hesitation threw me. I felt like I had to jump in.
Yeah, me too. You would have thought after 13 episodes you might be ready to introduce yourself, but we'll get there one day.
Today is not that day.
I hope you're all doing well.
Today we are joined by the lovely Sam, my favourite Birchen hauler, to talk all about battlefield magic in the Empire setting. And Sam's currently photos of Sam on the stream now. Behind we have video Sam and photo LARP Sam behind us.
Yes.
My beard was so big.
Yeah, long beard.
All this battlefield magic stuff.
Yeah, we're going to talk a bit about that. For anyone watching who doesn't know, Sam is, I believe, now head moderator of of the unofficial Empire Discord.
Not even moderator. I own the Discord now, which for my sins. Yeah.
I guess gives us the opportunity to maybe talk a bit about the hidden gem that is the unofficial Empire Discord.
God, it's hidden.
It's so hidden.
Yeah, you can't find it.
No. Do we want to hear about how you got into LARP and stuff first, and what LARPs you've done, and then we'll go on to the Discord?
Sure. So I started same year or you guys, or maybe an event after. So we started. The way we heard about it, you might have heard the story already from when V was on the stream. But we went to like not quite a Ren fair, but like a bit of a reenactment day at a place called Old Sarum, which is near Salisbury. It's an old hill fort, and they had like jousting and stuff like that on Valkyrie and all that sort of thing. And it was unbelievably hot. It was like 30 degrees, and I'm very pale and very ginger, and had to seek shelter under a tree with the 40 other people that also found shelter under the same tree. And whilst we were sat there through the hottest part of the day, we were just on our phones, and I'd recently watched Mark Hulme's video with Hat Films, Trot and Smith talking about Empire.
The classic.
And so I was sat under this tree looking at the wiki and stuff, getting my head around it, because I'd only watched it fairly recently. And I said to Vio, have you seen this? Here's this video. Have a look. So she watched the video, I think, there and then. And I was like, that's something we can do. Like, LARP to me had always been really interesting, but the only exposure I'd had to it was like American media, right? So like boffers and things, which didn't interest me. I liked all the other aspects, just not. Yeah, I really was keen on the idea of immersion, but not on boffers. Take your own opinions of boffers, but that was me. But Empire, totally different. Changed my opinion of, my impression of how things would be. And so yeah, we like this was like summer 2017. So we were like, right, well, there's 4 events a year. First one's in April. There's obviously like 1 or 2 more events the year of 2017. But we're like, right, we'll start next year. So we got everything. We spent like £300 on a tent, which was nuts for first-time LARPers, and dived in. I think through Facebook chat, like group chats and stuff, we'd spoken to Matt, and we all ignored the camp plans when we arrived and ended up camping next to him. And it was one of the muddiest events I think they've ever had, known as the Muddening 2018. It was rough. It was like, I mean, again, Matt's probably told this story. Matt still has bad toes from it. I've still got bad toes from it. Like, if it gets cold, I lose all feeling in my big toes. Pretty sure we got some minor frostbite at the time, which just destroyed some nerve endings. But we enjoyed it enough, and we came back, and we kept coming back. So yeah, since 2018, we've been doing Empire. I've missed 1 event in that space of time, just through other commitments. So we've been to every other event. And through that, a friend of ours was like, there's this Wild West event, like in Hampshire. You should come crew it. It's free to crew. It's really good, because he'd done the first one. It was the first event of Flying Lead, Smoke and Brass. So we went down to the second event, and we got completely hooked on ILARP. And ILARP's been our an extension of our LARP family ever since. We are down there at least once a month, pretty much, doing crew for a game, or I play probably twice a year there. Particular games, they do Empire player events as well, so sometimes I'm playing those, but generally I'm crewing Wild West events, Outlaw, which is like a Robin Hood, King Richard era event, 5K, which is like LARP Dungeons and Dragons. You've got Flying Lead, which is Wild West. You've got all sorts of stuff, right? You got like pirates and all that stuff. So that really expanded upon, like, again, we really only been exposed to Empire at this point, and then it was like there's all these other things, and that was awesome. And then beyond that, when COVID hit, obviously we were all stuck in our houses and couldn't do LARP for like 2 years. And one of the first things that opened back up was Airsoft, and I got back into that again through friends who actually did LARP as well. I've met friends who did LARP who also do Airsoft, and that's expanded on it. And the two things are quite linked for me. Like, they are quite similar sometimes. And I've done LARP that has Airsoft in it as well and stuff like that. So that allowed me to get back out on the field before LARP started again, and then LARP started again. And yeah, so it's that one Mark Humes video has opened up a whole range of activities and this huge group of friends for us since then. It's been nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of the I don't know if you guys have watched it, but there's a community episode where they do like the origin story of everyone, and I feel like our origin story is that video.
Yes, yeah,
because the story's the same for Tom and I, and
yeah, the amount of people on like the Discord and like people are like, oh, how'd you get into LARP? And it's like, oh, there was a Mark Humes video. Like, yeah, that's all of us. Probably like 90% of new players that joined Wintermark since 2018 because they watched a Mark Humes video, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just basically all I do now is LARP. So I don't have time or space to do anything else.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Do you want to give us a brief rundown of Bear, which is your current Empire character?
So yeah, Bear is my second Empire character. My first one was Wakestan, which was my starting character in Wintermark, who was Steiner, and died horribly in a crush in the woods. It was very traumatic. But after that, so my first character, Wakestan, was frontline shield sword, sword and board, which was great. Really enjoyed it, but I wanted to. After that experience, I was like, right, I want to take a step back and still do combat, but do something different. And so I created Bear, who is a CallioPea mage, which is still in Wintermark. It's one of the three traditions: CallioPea, Steiner, Suak. And originally, I was doing battle magey stuff, but I wanted to focus on ritual stuff. Wanted to get into Conclave, which, for those who don't know, is like magical parliament. Deals with like magical entities and stuff like that in the various magical realms and all the things to do with that. But Conclave wasn't my jam. I tried for a few events, but it's long. They've come on leaps and bounds because they've really streamlined how it works now, so it's a lot shorter than it was. All the important stuff happens right at the beginning now, which you didn't used to. It used to happen at the end, so you'd end up sitting there for like 4 hours to hear something that happened later, because there was no predetermined start time for the important stuff. It was just whenever the other shit was finished. So that really put me off. And ritual magic, just for whatever reason, I just didn't get into the flow of that. I did a few, but not massive amounts. But I've done more and more combat. I've done more and more skirmish stuff. I'm now helping, what we call flank captains, like a sub captain for one of the main units in Wintermark. So I've basically over time been ditching my ritual lore to gain more and more combat magic instead. So yeah, Bear's he's older than me as well as a character. He's sort of 50s-ish, because he was, to make it easy for the transition, and he is Wexton's uncle. And that, in my brain, again, still being quite new to LARP, it was only like 2 years in, year in maybe, that Wexton died. That might have even been like 3 events in, I can't remember. So that made it easier to transition to another character for me. And so I purposely made him a bit older, which works quite well. I think everyone's taken that in their stride. It's made for some good RP with friends and stuff. There's a running joke that I have a whole slew of multinational children now who are all just friends I know in other nations, and I just call them my sons. And, so yeah, it's been really fun with Bear. It's been really interesting, and combat magic is, you would think standing 3 rows behind the frontline fighters is safer, but it's really not.
Arrows.
But, oh God, arrows. at least once per battle, I hit the deck because I've taken an arrow somewhere on my body. It's the critical thing with battle mages is that, so in Empire you can't cast magic or battle magic rituals, anything, if you're wearing armor other than mage armor. Mage armor doesn't protect you from any special calls, and when arrows hit you, if you're not wearing armor, they take you down to 0 immediately if they hit you in the chest or they ruin the limb that they hit. So yeah, as a battle mage, it's just like I'm done. If I get hit by an arrow, I'm out. So
but I think I don't know how you feel, Sam, but it's definitely made me more aware of I obviously I haven't fought for like a year in game, but it definitely made me more aware of my surroundings in terms of what's coming at me from afar, like
yeah, because you're that far back as well, because you can step back a bit. You're the same as me. You use a big long staff with a thrust safe end, so you can reach over the line and prod, which gives you that bit more reach, but it gives you that space as well to actually be able to look around. And I think that's why it's worked quite well for me as like a sub captain, flank captain, because I can step back, still be involved almost as much as I was before, but I got that situational awareness of not being shoulder to shoulder with everybody else. And that's just quite nice. It's a little bit less sway. You're not getting battered around quite so much. The whole line isn't just crushing you as it tries to retreat, and you just pop out the front into the enemies. That being said, as you know, there's been instances where I just end up on the other side of the line somehow, which is all part of the fun.
Yeah, definitely. So your LARP career is, well, full of opportunities where you've done LARP stuff. How do you even have time to look after the Discord?
So yeah.
And also, what is the Discord for anyone who's not in the Discord?
So I run the unofficial Empire Discord. There is no official Empire Discord, and the reason for that, I think PD have given previously, always been mentioned by PD staff, is that it's just incredibly hard to moderate, right? In a live chat where things go on constantly, you have to react quite quickly to them. So Facebook and stuff is much easier for them because it can be reviewed. The way we cope, and so we've got over 1,600 members. I can probably tell you how many are on right now. So right now I've got 763 members online, which is a lot. Not necessarily all talking, but I think we have something like 400 unique visitors a week. So yeah, it is tough, but I've got a really good moderation team, luckily, and that's been built up over time. The Discord has been around since, I think, about late 2018, early 2019. It evolved from a Facebook chat, and eventually Facebook chats get to a size where they are unmanageable, and actually it tends to crash the application. So I didn't know anything about Discord, never heard of it, and actually another Sam, a very close friend of ours, started the Discord. And I came on as a moderator quite early on, became an administrator, and helped him with that. And I left for a period of time. It was quite stressful. It's had its ups and downs and everything else. And it's gone through quite a few iterations. But it got to a point where he was doing other things in life and didn't really have the time. And I wasn't an administrator or anything at the time. I'd left effectively, and I said, look, I can see it spiraling, and I appreciate you don't have the time. Give it to me, and I'll do what I can, because I want it to survive. And so since then, we've brought in several moderators and administrators, people I know and trust. Some people I don't really know, but that are proven in the community. And they've done very well. And I think the key thing that's really helped, certainly in very recent times, is that the community is very good at moderating itself. And it's gotten better and better at moderating itself. We aren't omnipotent. We can't see everything. And even when we're reviewing channels, we don't catch everything. There's a lot of text. We get something like 1,000 messages, every couple of days or something. It's absolutely nuts.
Mm.
But the community is largely very good at going, oh, there's a problem, here's a screenshot, send it to an administrator. Great. That means I can deal with it in time. Like, we've all got full-time jobs and shit. I don't get to deal with these things till later. And actually, largely, I don't have to anymore, which is great. Like, the admins step in, the mods step in. Things get tied up quite quickly. So, yeah, for the most part, sometimes things get out of hand, and sometimes I make a bad decision. Sometimes a mod or an admin makes a poor decision, and it all devolves into an argument. But generally, we get to turn that around, have a conversation, and clear it up. So yeah, it's I would say it's 75% community moderation and 25% having a very excellent admin team.
Mm. And what can prospective users expect to be able to chat about? What kind of things are covered in there?
So a bit of everything, and the real advantage of the Discord over like Facebook is that it's live, right? So you post a message, you can have instant responses. It is a live messaging service. So we've got channels for every nation. All of the 10 nations have their own channels, so there you can post all your nation-specific stuff. It's really really important for like the orcs, for example. So you go and you're like, oh, I want to join the orcs, but like I don't know what group to join because they're quite I want to say particular, but they're not particular. Their groups are just very important to the orcs as a brief, and also like they're like, oh, I don't know what mask to get, so like that's really important. And it's the same with all the nations. People are like, oh, is this winter mark enough? Where do I find the right braid or the right trim, stuff like that. We've got costume channel, we've got creative channel for things that people are making beyond costumes, so like making cool boxes, maybe you're making I don't know, props, anything like that. We've got voice channels which do get used. They get used sort of infrequently, and when they do get used, there's like 20 people in there at the same time. So it's cool. I've like Eurozen hosted like a meet on there. It was a year or two ago, but like half of Eurozen turned up and we're like in our voice channel, which was cool.
That must have been upwards of 10 people.
At least 6, yeah.
We're joking, Horizon, we love you.
And we've got like what we call roles, so military, trading, religion, magic, and healing. We've got channels for all of those because they are quite particular parts of the game and can be a little bit nuanced. So there's chats for those. The main thing to remember on them is that so we operate within the PD conduct. So PD have a rule list of how they operate online, as well as the field. Like they both take, they both happen, but they have a separate online one to help with online interactions. So we follow that as closely as we can, and we do have some addendums onto it because, again, those were designed for for Facebook and for forums, not for Discord. So we've tweaked it, and it works pretty well. And one of those is like we don't want in-character chat in there. Like if you're like, I want to sell my wares. It's like, no. You can maybe stick a poster advertisement up and be like, I'm selling chests in Navarre. That's fine. But that's probably the hardest thing to moderate is where people are like, I want to talk about this cool thing that happened. It's like, you can talk about it to an extent, but not like to the point where you're like really discussing the play-by-play.
If I'm correct in thinking, it follows the same rules as everything on Facebook for PD. So no hard IC interactions and discussions and stuff. Find out and play.
So because the PD line on it is a bit weird in that they say there is no FOIP, so no find out and play, but there shouldn't be any IC interactions happening, no IC opinions being expressed. But you can say like, oh, that battle was cool, this cool thing happened in that battle, without going into like mega detail, so that's fine.
Excellent. Well, when we put the YouTube video out, there will be a link in the description. I believe we can now collect links for it.
Yes, so something that's changed recently. We've always been really careful about who could share links for the Discord for invites, and the reason for that is that we used to get a lot of spam. We used to just all sorts of weird shit used to happen, and weird people would join in that weren't anything to do with Empire or Prevent decisions. So it's always been up until 3 days ago, that only moderators and admins could generate invites. But in the last couple of days, for a variety of reasons, including the community being very good at moderating, but also Discord having very good auto moderation features now to help stop spam, we've made it so anyone with a role within the Discord, so when you join, you'll be prompted to go to select a nation or say you're undecided. So one of 11 options, basically. So as long as you pick one of those to show that you're actually paying attention, you can generate your own invites. So send them to your friends, share them on Facebook, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's good for anyone who's watching who's already in the Discord that you can now, invite anyone at will. And if you're new and don't have access to the Discord, just check the description below, and there will be a lovely little link to get involved.
I think it's I think I would almost say the Discord is as valuable as the Empire Profound Decisions Wikipedia or Facebook groups, because for new players or old players that want to I don't know, possibly looking at new characters, something like that. You've got like you said, 1,600 people in the game of what, like 2,500 players, maybe 3,000 players. So you got like almost 50% of those players sat in this Discord that you can access and chat to, and everyone's lovely. So yeah,
we do have like several refs and several crew members as well who are in there. Some don't want to be shown as crew, but they are in there. But there are refs in there who are quite open about being refs, and their knowledge is incredible. So 99% of the time, if you have a technical question, somebody will be able to answer you pretty precisely, or they'll be able to point you to that resource that you need to find it.
Rather than spending hours combing the wiki.
Just absolutely.
Get in there and you'll probably get a response pretty quick, which is great. A very valuable tool.
Agreed. Anyway.
Cool. That's the Discord.
That's the Discord. And now on to the main event of today. The meat of the show.
That is Battlefield Magic. That's why we're here. So, like I said, the reason why we got Sam on, because your current character is a whiz on the battlefield.
A wizard.
Unmatchable in power and strength on. Anyway, so I thought I'd start it with we kind of addressed it already a bit about mage armor, but like how to become a battle mage, right? So we're going to be, I guess, cover, obviously this is down to you now, Sam, but like what's the basics? What's the bloody basics of being a mage?
Should we roleplay that you've turned up to Anvil, Matt, and you want to become a battle mage, but you have no idea where to start?
Yeah.
Let's get Matt ready for battle mage.
Sure. So the number one thing is that to battle mage, you have to have mage skill, because otherwise you're going to be pretty ineffective as a mage because you can't cast any spells. So when you take the mage skill, you get the basic spells of bind and unbind, open or operate portal, and something else I can't remember now because I don't use those spells because
bind,
don't do
operate
anything
portal,
except fighting.
Detect magic.
Detect magic, that's the one. So that allows you to identify magical items and stuff like that. Operate portal allows you to open portals, find out when conjunction's happening, and then binding and unbinding allows you to attach magical items to things, people, etc. So once you've taken those, you can take. So mages can use any. You can take any applicable weapon skill and use those weapons, even as a mage. So I could take the shield skill and use a shield and a rod, which is rods are within like the mace sword sort of category. Effectively, they're maximum of, I want to say 42 inches off the top of my head, etc. But most mages tend to take a staff. To take a staff, you need the battle mage skill. That allows you to take a weapon over 42 inches, and it can also optionally be thrust safe, which allows you to poke with it as well as whack with it. What the battle mage skill also allows you to do is take mage armor. So, as I said before earlier on, you cannot cast any kind of spell or ritual in regular armor. whether it be light, medium, heavy, armor, nothing. So if you're wearing a gambeson, can't cast spells. But mage armor is different, and it needs to look magey, effectively. I think the description on the wiki is that it needs to be like a hero belt or something applicable, or something similar, and 2 other locations. So it could be like a shoulder piece, it could be bracers, it could be greaves, could be a headband, that sort of thing, as long as it looks magical-ish. So maybe adding some trinkets to it, maybe adding, you've got the runes in Empire, which are inherently magical, so you can add runes to it, that sort of thing. And then what mage armor does is it gives you a base 2 extra hits. So you start with 2 hits as your standard hits in Empire. Mage armor gives you an additional 2. Also, what it is useful for is then there are multiple magical mage armors that you can purchase, get made on the field. So you then have that base to add that magical armor to. So I do that, and I just buy a cheap one off a friend of ours, which gives me an additional hit. So I end up with 3 additional hits on top of my standard 2, which is very useful when you're a mage because you're squishy.
Yes.
So at that point, so you've taken mage, you've taken battle mage, which means you can wear your mage armor, you've got your stick, but you still need to take extra spells. So by taking extra spell as a skill, it allows you to pick another spell. And there's quite a few, but there are multiple combat spells. Sorry, I'm just looking them up so I don't get them wrong.
That's fine. We don't pretend to know everything.
So there's 2 types of spells, like other than rituals in Empire. There's regular spells and there's offensive spells. Regular spells require at least 30 seconds of appropriate role playing, and you must be touching the target with the casting hand throughout the spell. I think you can also use an implement, if I remember. But anyway, and they're like create bond, detect magic, operate pool. You've also got heal, which heals you to full. Or the target to full. You can use it on yourself, which is really handy as a mage. I use it all the time. I'm like, I'm really low on health. I'm gonna heal myself. Mend, which allows you to repair a weapon or shield, which Mark has got. I've also got it now because again, amount of times my staff gets broken, I'm like, pull out the wand, fix the staff.
To be fair, I'm thinking about heal as well. We'll be unstoppable.
Heal. So good. Restore limb, which allows you to repair a limb. Again, so good as a mage. Like your arm gets ruined, your leg gets ruined, especially with a leg, you're suddenly immobile because your leg's ruined. Like heal that, run.
So I mean, you don't need both hands then.
No, you need a hand, or an implement off the top of my head. So if you're in combat, you have to have an implement, but that's for swift casting, which I'll come to in a second.
Oh yeah.
There's Night Pouch, which is magical prison pocket, is what we call it at Empire. It's basically you can create a pouch that nobody else can access apart from the caster, right?
I was reading this the other day.
There's a counter spell, isn't there?
Access it.
There's a ritual, breaks it.
But it only lasts one day, night pouch, and at the end of the day, it disappears with everything in it.
Yeah, I think it's aimed for like if you've got like 100 thrones that you need to transport from A to B, right? You like make a night pouch, and then it's secure. It's like an armored car, right?
Yeah.
You got Purify, which I can't even remember what Purify does.
Removes a curse.
I've got it here. Oh, it removes venom or weakness, which are negative status effects. And Voice for the Dead, which allows you to speak to a dead person in the last 10 minutes. Yeah. And then you've got, so you can cast any of those for 1 mana. You spend 30 seconds casting them, and you have to do spell vocals. So one of the hardest parts of maging, and it's the same for rituals, is spell vocals. You need to either have something memorized, like you prepare beforehand, or what I do is I just make up some bullshit on the spot. And that's what works for me because my memory's terrible, so I won't remember anything I've written down. So you can talk about the realms, you can talk runes, you can do all sorts of stuff. Basically, whatever you like, as long as you're doing vocals.
Do you have an example of vocals?
No. I'm on the spot now. Bad enough I'm on the battlefield. Swift casting allows you to cast any of those within any of those 30-second spells instantly, but you have to touch them with an implement, so it needs to be a wand, rod, or staff. And you still have to do spell vocals, but it's like a couple of seconds, right? So what it says here is a few words of appropriate roleplay. So you can just like, power of winter, I heal you, and then you're healed, rather than spewing crap for 30 seconds. Offensive spells follow that same principle, but they cost 1 or 2 mana depending on the spell, whereas all non-offensive spells cost 1 or 2 if you're swift casting. So the offensive spells are Empower, which they give a hero point. Is that right? It allows a target to make a single heroic call based on the weapon they're using. So it's as if they gain a hero point and they can use a call.
Oh yeah.
Entangle, which traps the target for 10 seconds. They can still move their arms, but they can't move their feet. Paralysis, which completely binds them for 10 seconds. Repel, which means they have to go 20 feet or 20 feet backwards or backwards for 10 seconds, whichever is easiest, effectively. Shatter, which breaks the weapon or shield that it hits. Venom, which brings down your bleed out count. Your basic bleed out count at Empire starts at 3 minutes, so if you go down to 0 hits, you've got 3 minutes until you're dead. Venom, as standard, brings that down to 30 seconds if you're envenomed. And Weakness, which means if you're subjected to weakness, you can't cast spells or use hero points. Those all cast 1 except for Paralysis and Shatter, which cost 2 mana because they're stronger spells, they're more heavily used. So yeah, when you take the extra spell skill on the Profound Decisions website on your character creator, which you can also do at an event. If you've got XP and you arrive at an event, you're like, really want to do some more battle maging, you can go to the God Tent, use one of their computers, and spend those points. So yeah, you would choose one of those spells each time, basically. And they all use what we call personal mana to cast. So at Empire, you've got 2 types of mana. You've got crystal mana, which is a physical thing. You get a card to tell you that you have it, and then you need to provide a fizz rep. So most people have like acrylic crystals or something like that. And then you've got personal mana. A mage, when you take the mage skill, you get 4 personal mana. That resets at the end of the start of every day. Or there's various items, teas, and things like that can restore it. And also there's potions that can give you back mana. And you can take a skill that gives you more personal mana. So I think I'm on 8 basic personal mana now because I take extra with my XP. So when you're casting rituals, you're using crystal mana. When you're casting regular spells and offensive spells, you're using personal mana.
But you can use crystal mana, can you, if you run out of personal?
And it's
very expensive.
Same. It's a very expensive way to do it, but like imagine you're in a situation where you're out of mana, you get hit with an arrow in the leg, you're a mage. Go down, you've got restore limb, you've got no personal mana left. Tear up a regular mana, restore limb, you can survive to see another day, right? It's very useful in a pinch. I used to always carry some, but I don't have a mana sight anymore, so I don't tend to have any.
Yeah.
I'd imagine crystal mana is an expensive way of doing it, but like if you're in a battle and you're running Shatter, for example, although that is 2, isn't it? But Shatter can be so useful. You know?
It is. We've got people on the field. Yeah, in Wintermark we've got the Icebreakers, which are also known as the Shatter Squad, and they're just a load of mages that all have Shatter, and their whole thing is they go after priority targets on the battlefield, break their weapons, break their shields, and it's very, very effective.
It is. We've run with them a couple of times, and it's been very good fun.
I'm technically in the group, but I do other stuff, so I don't often run around with them.
I think Repel could be a handy one as well. Out of all of like, for what it's only 1 mana, right? And you can just pop someone
Repel's
away.
up there with strike down for heavy armor. Yeah. So if you got you're fighting a dude with like full heavy armor on and a big shield, hit them with a repel, they've got to go back 20 feet. Yeah, and that suddenly takes them out of the line, and you've broken a line.
If you had a group of like 10 of you, that could all just like repel. You could dissolve like a battle line, sort of,
absolutely,
or punch a hole in it.
Yeah, it's very similar to like using strike down for heroic call. Again, same thing. You hit a heavy armor with strike down, they have to fall on their ass. Suddenly they're out of the count for a few seconds.
Just remind me, it doesn't matter what armor you're wearing for mage spells.
So
if you're
the target that's hit.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if you're in heavy or light. If you get hit with the repel on the body,
Correct.
on the armor,
Yeah,
they're
it's not
affected.
like heroic strikes. Yeah, everything takes effect. And I
Apart from if
believe
you hit their implement, I believe. I don't think repel works if you hit their weapon,
I
does
think
it?
I can't remember if it gets parried or not. Let me check for you.
And similarly, shatter, I
Here's-
think you have to obviously hit the weapon or shield that you want to shatter. I don't think shatter works on armor, does it?
No, it doesn't work on armor. You can't break armor.
No.
Offensive spells, blah 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 blah. It's not very clear on there. There's probably another bit on the wiki where it is clear, but yeah, there's certain things. I mean, like just shatter works on, like you say, on a shield or a weapon. So that's kind of the point of it. I'm pretty sure repel goes through a shield, so I think even if they block it, they still take it.
Okay.
Because it's the same with strike down.
What about? Do you know? I haven't really thought about paralysis until you mentioned it just then. That sounds so good. If you're
so good.
If you're in trouble and you just paralyze the person that you're fighting, the enemy that you're fighting.
Imagine, if you will, you're one-on-one with a mage. They have a 6-foot staff, and they hit you with a paralyze straight off the bat. It doesn't matter if you're in the heaviest armor; they can deal 10 points of damage to you, and they can probably cast it again. Or they could break all of your weapons in those 10 seconds if they had shatter as well.
Yeah.
It can be nuts. Mages aren't very good one versus like more than one enemy, but one-on-one they can be very strong. Yeah, absolutely. They're very strong spells.
Yeah, I've never really.
That's why paralysis costs 2 rather than 1.
Also, there's nothing stopping a mage wielding a sword, right?
Nope.
So you could literally have a staff. You could be like paralysis and then quickly whip out your sword and.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, sword wouldn't count as an implement, so you couldn't cast a spell with it. But
get a wand.
You could use a rod, which
a
lot of rods are they're kind of like maces almost, but like magical looking. And you can use that with a shield. It can be the same length as a sword. Because it's a LARP weapon, frankly, it weighs about the same as a sword. So yeah, and they still do 1 point of damage, which is worth noting. When you hit any enemy with any weapon or implement, it does 1 point of damage, irrespective. As long as it hits them, not the sword or the board, right?
Yeah.
I think some people sometimes forget it, but yeah, if I hit you with a paralysis, even if it's with a wand, like a little dagger length wand, you take 1 point of damage. So yeah, pretty good, and it's something definitely to remember.
Yeah, I might take paralyze.
People where you like paralyze someone, and then say you had someone with cleave that could just tap their leg, go around and hit the weak spots, or someone with a bow, point blank.
Yeah.
Nasty business. Risk and reward, though, I guess, because, like you said, mages are incredibly squishy, so you can have fun. You just gonna have a tough time.
Yeah. So how many? You get 2 extra points for mage armor. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
So if you're with the basic 2, then you'll have 4 total.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking of being a battle mage and you're worried about being hit, maybe you want to be more in the front line, then you probably want to think about taking. Is it fortitude for HP?
Endurance for HP, fortitude for bleed out, and maybe consider going shield and rod instead. It's something I've considered, because I end up in the front so bloody often. Should I go back to using a shield just for that extra defense?
I've been looking at stuff recently, like loads of items and stuff, and you can still be full mage and then just buy an item that gives you the shield ability.
Yep.
Like there's loads of items that will just give you abilities, and then so you're not using your valuable XP, so you can still fully spec into mage stuff and then buy a shield that gives you the shield ability. I would do it for my character, I think, because I've basically got no free XP. So if I were to go fight, I'll just pick up a shield ability.
Absolutely. There's multiple items out there that do stuff like that, and also there's items that give you realm lore and give you access to weapon. I think this one gives you weapon master as well. So weapon master allows you to use weapons over 42 inches in length, because as standard you can only use up to a 42 inch sword or whatever. So yeah, if your character is good at trading and stuff, and you don't want to spend the XP, why not just buy items?
See, a rod can be up to 42 inches long, which is quite long.
Yeah.
So, you've pretty much covered a lot of stuff already, Sam. But I made a bullet point on mass calls. So we've spoken about all these spellcasting calls. There are such things as mass calls.
Yeah.
And what are they?
So mass calls are linked to rituals. There are rituals out there that allow a mage. So you cast the ritual, you choose a mage to target with the ritual. That mage can, I think they have an hour on most of them. I might be wrong. You've probably done this slightly more than I did. But that mage can then cast a mass call, and then normally it's normally venoms or weakness, right? There might be some others.
I've seen
there's definitely a paralyze as well. Yeah. There's a spring mass heal as well. But the offensive ones, the way they work is normally, I think it's a 10-foot cone in front of them. 20. There you go. So everything within a 20-foot cone, and normally you'll let a ref know before you're going to do it, and they'll follow you. And they'll go, right, everyone here, you've got venom, or you're all paralyzed, or
So my coven, a winter coven, does quite well. Not recently, but last year we were doing quite a few mass venom ones. So yeah, like you said, you'd have these would be cast in the regio outside of the battlefield. So we'll do it sort of as we're about to go through. We'd cast it on someone. I'm pretty sure they have like 15 minutes to use it.
Right.
If they don't use it, it gets bounced onto them, which is obviously quite bad. So you literally like fire someone up, load them up with this mass venom, and then just send them into the battlefield. But not like from experience I've had, the refs will know you're planning on doing this ritual anyway.
Yes.
Or we grab them at the gate and go, by the way, we're going to cast this ritual now.
Yeah, we've definitely done that.
Like, okay, and they'll almost assign a ref to you. So you can go onto the battlefield with a ref. Or, again, like you find a ref on the battlefield going, by the way, I've got a mass venom. And they'll be like, okay, I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, generally they'll follow you about,
Because then you do your announcement of doom or whatever, you shout your mass venom, and then the ref will then, I guess, tell players what to do. Or monsters, whoever it is.
Going back briefly to, you mentioned about how long the ritual lasts for, like how long you get to cast, like Mass Repel, for example. The ritual Thundering Roar of the Lion-Bound Horn, it lasts until the end of the next battle, skirmish, or quest that the character participates in, the character that's had it cast on them. And it obviously can only be used once. So that's quite good. I thought there was, a time limit of you get this cast on you and then you have 1 hour to cast it. You'd literally be having it cast on you through the gate, wouldn't you?
I think a lot of the curses are like that, and they're like 15 minutes, right? Like you're like, right, I've got a curse. I would nominate this person to be the pronouncer of doom, as I think it's written on the wiki. They then have to find their target in 15 minutes.
Yes,
and they can choose anybody, but they need to do it in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know if have you ever what your experiences of mass spells on the battlefield? Which ones have you seen?
I've seen. What have I seen? I've seen Venoms a couple of times. They're really good. They're really good in specific circumstances. Like if you know you're going out to fight Valorn, for example, which are evil magic plants.
Nasty.
that like inhabit husks of dead people, effectively. They die instantly to venom. Pretty much. So, or at the very least, like the big Valorn husks are weakened by venom, they can then be killed. So, if you've got somebody with a mass venom and you've got 20 husks, you go, boom, suddenly they're all dead, or they are much easier to kill. It's the same with regular husks and weakness, I believe. And also, if you know you're going to be fighting heralds, so heralds are like within Empire, you've got the 6 realms of magic, which inhabit their own spaces within the universe of Empire. And then they have Eternals, who are kind of demigod-ish. They're like magical beings that are very, very powerful and inhabit them. They have heralds that carry a portion of their power, effectively. And you quite often see them on the battlefield. And sometimes you'll see a lot of them on the battlefield, depending on what the situation is. So if you have that, because they're inherently magical, and you cast a mass weakness on them, suddenly they can't cast spells, which makes them somewhat useless, other than being able to whack you with sticks and stuff. So yeah, it's very situational. they can be incredibly valuable depending on what situation you're in.
I've just been looking. The ritual I was thinking of is with Howling Despite of the Yawning Maw, which is actually weakness, not venom. It's a mass weakness.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what Mark said, this lasts till the end of the next battle, skirmish, or quest the character participates in. So maybe they all do then. I thought for some, maybe I'm thinking of the ritual that would destroy a fortification. I think that one you only have 10 minutes.
Yeah, so there are other battlefield rituals that do other things, right? Like, so when Matt says destroying a fortification, he literally means like we'll have like a briefing before the battle, like military council will know roughly what's going to go on. If we're like, right, there's going to be a fort that we have to assault, right? Well, we'll prep one of those rituals, we'll hit it, and literally as it gets done, the refs will move in and move the walls out of the way because we've destroyed the fortification, which can be really cool. Other thing, you see rituals happen on the battlefield as well. I just would like, Matt's done it before, that aren't necessarily combat rituals. Sometimes you have to go in and you have to cast a specific ritual in a specific place to affect the overall campaign. It happened last event. Maybe it destroys a fortification or makes something stronger within the bigger military campaign. So there's a lot of ritual stuff going on the battlefield. Most big battles, don't really see it in skirmishes. You'll see mass calls in skirmishes, again with like Valorn and stuff. But for big battles, you'll quite often see probably one big ritual being popped off somewhere. That isn't a combat ritual.
The last battle I was involved in, we did rituals. I think I have a feeling it was a Destroy Regio ritual.
Yep,
I think
it's quite high, isn't it? It's like Mag 50 or something silly.
Oh, more than that, I think. No, maybe you're right. Anyway, I think there was 3 points on the battlefield that we had to destroy, which meant 3 rituals being cast, and they are 10-minute rituals.
Yeah.
So you can imagine like the ebb and flow of a battle where it's back and forth, and you've got to stand there in a little ritual circle, thumping away, for 10 minutes.
Yeah. So the battle we had last event, which Wintermark went on with other nations, we had basically a regio in the middle in the woods, and we had 3 fortifications spaced evenly around it. And the main, if I remember rightly, somebody might correct me, but if I remember rightly, the main objective was actually to pop off a ritual in each of those fortifications. But once the first ritual started, all of them had to be completed within 20 minutes of that start.
Yeah.
And they were all 10-minute rituals, which means we needed 3 ritual teams to do it. There was, and we just chose not to do it because it was too hard. We were like in the meeting, we're like, no, it's just not happening. But there was also a secondary objective to do a ritual in the regio, which we did. Which again was a 10-minute one, which reset if it got interrupted. It would start again at the 0 mark. But we managed to pop that one off, and then we had other objectives as well. But imagine trying to do if we tried to do all of them, we would have done 4 rituals in one battle.
I think, and you only took 1 ritual team on with you, didn't you? So
yeah, they weren't even like the regular nation. We hired within Empire. There's an item. Normally, you can only go on a battle with your nation unless it's a skirmish. But for the big battles, like if you're Wintermark, you have to go with Wintermark. You can't go, I'm going to go Dawn today. You can't do that. But there is an item called a mercenary banner, which allows anybody within the banner attached to that item to go on any battle effectively. You have to be like sworn in and stuff. There's intricacies to it, but there's a particular group within the league who sell themselves out for that, and they are quite a big winter coven. So yeah, for that one we hired the league, and the league popped it off for us.
Yeah, so the battle ritual I did, we teamed up with another team, and that was the Crimson Reapers.
Yeah, they're like probably I want to say the biggest winter coven on the field.
Yeah, I think we're not far off them. Or I can't. Probably they're bigger than us.
Yeah,
like,
pretty large.
Yeah, so battlefield rituals adds a whole other battlefield magic side to it, because again, I'm not a battle mage at all. Like I don't do any battle magic, but I can still go on to the battlefield and do magic via some sort of rituals. Or what I find quite common with rituals when it comes to battles are these sort of pre-battle rituals where you're loading someone up with a mass call, or there's rituals out there to give people extra endurance or something like that, or whatever. I'm pretty sure. There's that side of it as well. So
yeah, there's lots of buffs available.
Rituals all kind of buffs and debuffs, aren't they? And then
I think from from like a game design point of view as well, rituals, like that sort of thing where you have to do a ritual on the battlefield to achieve an objective, is a really clever way of, like, you think like a video game where you have to like take and hold a point, right, until something happens, and maybe it's like you'll set up the bomb or whatever, right? It's that, like, they've achieved that in a magical setting, and it's really cool. Like, it's a really clever way of doing it, in that the players don't have to do any physical heavy lifting. They don't have to move a cart, you don't have to place things, you don't have to deal with any props, but you still got to pop off this thing, and it's still hard.
Yeah. I mean, when we did it in the battlefield, like, obviously, again, standing there for 10 minutes, so you would have to march up to up the field to get close to these things we had to destroy, then start your 10-minute timer ritual, whilst there's a whole battle going on. And my experience from battles is they can be quite back and forth. Like, you know, you're marching up 10 meters and then you push back 15 and then you're going back. You know, so it's it's just another interesting way of getting magic into the battlefield rather than sort of just giving it to battlefield mages. It's but like I said, it's just another element, and I guess it gives PD another way of making their battles interesting rather than just being a slogfest. You know, you can because again, the game itself is obviously the generals or whatever, the field marshal has been given these potential objectives. Then it's down to, I guess, them and the military council to figure out, you know, oh, we got to destroy Regio, and that's the 100 mag or 150 mag ritual.
Yeah.
Then it's down to the players to then figure out how that's doable. Like, is there a coven that can even achieve it? You know, and if there is that coven going to do it for you, or are they going to be like, oh yeah, we want paying a load of money, like, which is understandable. You know? Covens, we don't really want to go onto a battlefield and risk getting hurt. So it adds game to everyone, doesn't it? Really, which is cool.
The battles are probably for PD. So skirmishes are very dynamic and very interesting. They can be very different, but big battles are very hard to make individual. The rest of the game very much bounces off players, and the players make it unique. So the players very much change how, like, the Senate game works, how the Synod game works, everything else, because they are they're the movers, right? They change everything and move everything. In the battles, because it's players versus PD in the battles, and I think it'll change a little bit if and when they get a permanent site and they have more opportunity to build more set pieces and build more forts and things like that. But as it is, they don't have a huge amount of flexibility with that, and we've only got the one field and the one bit of woods. So yeah, anything that allows them to add a little bit of variation in and change it up a little bit, like rituals, like a small fortification that you have to blow up or a region you have to blow up, is really good to add that variation to something that inevitably is probably one line faces another line and batters off each other every time.
I think Tom in our combat episode made a good point, or made an observation that PD have got a lot better since lockdown, but yeah, like you got to a point where there's only so much they can do. There's only so much they can imagine when it comes to battles, apart from adding sort of flavour to the battles, whether it be plot or something like that. In the end of the day, it's either march to the field and smash an enemy off it, or march to the field and take a point, or march onto the field and do a ritual and destroy something. So there's only so many combinations they have. Again, it like having the woods and the fields. You know, some battles we play in the field and then march into the woods. Other battles, I think we were just in the woods. Other battles
we were last season,
But yeah, like I said, I guess if they were to get their own site and they had the option of like 3 or 4 fields and a couple of woodlands, then bingo, like they've probably got a lot more options. They could invest a bit more in infrastructure, whether it be a proper fort or
because they had a fort once upon a time. They had one with parapets and stuff that they would build, but the practicality of that is limited when you're having to clear it off site for half a year and bring it back at the beginning of the season. If you have your own site that you own and you have storage that you can build,
you can invest, can't you?
This is it. You can bring stuff on, you can spend time on site fixing stuff, and you've got that availability all the time, which they don't have at the moment. And it's something. It's really comparable to, like, you look at Eversley as a site for ILARP. And we've got these really cool buildings on site and stuff that Johnny in there, and I've been there building stuff as well. Like I built my own hut there, and you get to build these functional things, and they got that big kit store and big prop store. It is a much smaller site than obviously what PD has and needs, but as an example, it works. And yeah, it allows for these really cool set pieces because it's all there and it's always there. So yeah, when they get that ability, I think things will improve. Like, not the battles are bad, but I think they will improve dramatically when they have that ability.
I was going to say, obviously, you said about they used to have a fort and stuff. I mean, they kind of have a fort now.
Yeah.
It's very, again, I guess in the mind of they've got to take it down and move it. So I don't know whether they're allowed to leave it up during LARP season, which is.
I think some things they are.
But
it's like, like the Forge used to have a second floor.
Yeah.
But it's just not. I imagine they could fix it and add the second floor, but it's probably not practical when they're aiming for a permanent site where they can actually make a building rather than.
And also when a lot of their
building
crew
a giant
are
hut.
voluntary and stuff, they've got to rely on a voluntary crew. So the more work they make for themselves, the harder job they're going to have because they're calling on this completely voluntary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Power,
Yeah.
To do it. So, but no, the fort they've got now, I think, still kind of cool. Like it has walls and openings. So if you let your imagination get in there a bit, like it's cool. Like I've had an enjoyable time at the fort, and they have a very slight ditch and a wooden bridge over it, so you kind of have to go over the bridge.
Yeah, I think apparently I overheard some crew a few events ago when I was still in line for some food. And when they ran Odyssey, which was the previous game, which was all Greek based, they actually had like an amphitheater that they would build with actual stands, which sounds amazing. So because they would have like gladiator fights effectively. But the crew was saying that what inevitably would happen is they would still be building it as the game started, and people would already be fighting when they're still trying to put it together. But that just sounds great, and like, I would love to see more of that. And again, if they got the storage, they'll hopefully be able to build more modular things so they can be like, right, I need a wall here, build it. You see things like pictures from like Drakenfest, and they've got these really cool big wall fortifications and stuff. I'd love to see more of that. It's more immersive, right? Like if you've got this big like 12-foot wall that you can't see over. Even better if you can safely have somebody still on top of it. Maybe you just have your skirmish crew because they know the safety brief to be able to stand on it with archers. That would be so cool. It would just add a whole new level.
You compare it to Eversley a bit, like they've got the Viking village, haven't they? Which is like got a palisade wall around it.
Yes.
Like that's,
yeah.
It's not like 20 foot high, but it's still a pretty cool I know hypothetically, but like if PD did get a site with like 4 or 5 fields. There's nothing stopping them building this semi-permanent structure of a fort in there, and they only use that field when they need to do a fort battle. Which is I mean, we often spend a lot of time thinking about what PD could do if they had their own site. What we want
if we all won the lottery at the same time,
Absolutely. But yeah, I think and also looking at Eversley's, I can't remember what the little fort is there.
So you've got Viking Village, which has a wall all the way around with several like.
What's the one where you can get up on top of the gate?
Yeah, so you've got what a lot of people call the fort, but it's actually called the wall, which is the gatehouse at the top of the hill. Yeah,
but you think about that structure. It's not something super like.
It's not crazy technical. It's a wall
easily doable for like
a set of stairs.
If we had a long weekend, we could build it.
Yeah.
So if PD had the ability to leave permanent structures, then I believe that's in their range, and also that's manageable. We can climb up on top of that and shoot arrows off it if we wanted to, which would be awesome to have.
Yeah, all you do is you post a ref at the bottom of it, right, and they go 4 people up, and they just manage the safety of it. I think that's the real difficult bit of it is managing safety, but it's definitely doable, 100%.
And then when they get a functioning gatehouse, they could have battering rams in the battles, and that just adds something else.
I mean, we've already got like war rhinos that people ride on top of, so well, why not have a battering ram?
It's been a while though since
I've seen a war rhino for a little while. Yeah, I'm a bit worried.
Well,
there's gonna be like 3, and then.
When was the last time we fought Grendel?
Well, that's it, isn't it? Because we got a treaty with them. So.
Yeah.
And I think the Thule. Do the Thule?
So the Thule had the rhinos was it Thule had rhinos and Grendel had land sharks?
Yeah.
Which are physically the same thing, but they are different. Yeah.
But then again, we're treaties with the Thule currently, and also V said some of them got destroyed over the long dark due to damp, which is very sad.
It's the problem with latex and foam. It does
We
rot.
spent all that time fighting their impenetrable shells, and we should have just got them damp.
Put them in a container.
Buckets of water.
Yeah.
But again, this goes back to the whole PD having their own site. They could probably invest in some.
Yeah, you think how big those things are. For anyone who hasn't seen one, who hasn't been maybe, or just hasn't come across one on the battlefield, they are 15 feet long, maybe a bit longer than that, and they're probably 8 to 10 feet tall, like at the shoulder. They're big things. I don't know what the insides are like, but I imagine they're on wheels and they've got multiple crew inside pushing, and then there's somebody physically sat on the top of it as well.
There's a
like safely.
With a spear, isn't there?
Yeah, or a bow. I think it was Daisy got to go on top of a bow once, which was awesome. As a Druge, I want to say, maybe as a Grendel. No, it must have been Grendel. Yeah, very cool though. Like again, this thing that like breaks through everything already, and then somebody's just firing accurately with a bow. So there you go. Mark's found the picture. There is a war rhino in the background there. Those are Thule.
That is the war rhino.
I don't know. That looks pretty purpley to me.
Was it purple? All right, my eyes are going bad. I was thinking it was blue.
Sorry,
but yeah, you're right. So yeah, it's
zoom in.
isn't it?
There we go.
Somebody's got javelin, in fact, on the top. You can see them about to launch it.
Yeah.
And
you don't see many javelins.
Like on a pivot as well, isn't it? So the head's like swinging back and forth.
Yeah, it's a very cool setup. It's very cool. Yeah, they've put like some fishnet stuff on it, right? So it's a land shark, not a war rhino.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
Very brave hero of the Empire here.
Once they had some permanent storage, because these things must get damaged in transit as well. So yeah, they would be able to rebuild things like this, make more things as well. Like we've had big, like Wyvern Fizz reps and stuff, but they're normally in encounter tents, so you see like an end of them. I think they've had a Kraken before, but again, it's in an encounter tent, so it's not moving around. Like it's not coasting around everywhere; it's just moving its appendages. But yeah, they would be able to build bigger and better things, which would be awesome.
Yes. Absolutely nothing to do with Battlefield Magic, any of this, but very interesting.
Cool. It's fun.
Very interesting.
To dream.
It is.
You get excited.
Yeah.
If we want to go back on topic, I can try bring us back on topic.
Can do. I mean, I was gonna ask you guys what your, if you have any memorable experiences of Magic on the battlefield. Maybe not you so much, Matt. I don't know, but I'm sure you can think of something, Sam.
Oh, like Battlefield. I've done again. I've only really touched on rituals, which, but they were like the one time I went onto the battlefield. But IC and OC, I didn't want to go, and I was like, I don't really, like I had my wooden staff, so I was non-com essentially. I couldn't fight, so they were like, "Oh, if anyone comes up to you and hits you with a sword, you just got to go down. You got 0 hits straight away. Like you're not gonna take a beating." So I was basically non-com. And yeah, like I think halfway through the first ritual, we got rolled and I got cut down straight away. So
yeah, again, for people who don't know, if you're non-com, so you're not a non-combatant in Empire, the rule is that if somebody goes to attack you, you raise your hand, and you are bleeding out at that point. Like you have immediately gone to 0 hits. You've raised your hand, so they know not to hit you. Because
I was going to say, you don't actually have to hit someone who's a non-com. You can just go up and go, "Hey, by the way, I've just stabbed you."
Yeah. If you know they're a non-com, if you don't know, if you go to hit somebody, if they stick their hand up, you don't hit them, and then they're immediately on 0 hits. They are bleeding out, and that's to accommodate for people mostly. Like sometimes you got people like yourself, Matt, who just don't want to do combat, which is fine, or but sometimes people have a disability or any other reason why they don't want to get hit with a foam stick, so which is fair enough. So yeah, that was the way that rule works.
Yeah, which I got a very funny look off one of the refs. Like we were going through the battlefield and they were doing a weapons check again, like they do sometimes.
Yeah, they almost always do now.
So many people on the field had a wooden stick, and I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it, mate. I'm a non-com." And he's like, "Why are you going on the battlefield then?" Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't want to be here either, but
Yeah. And to then get cut down within like 15 minutes of the battle starting, I was not happy.
To be fair, even if you were combative, then you would still be cut down because you're a mage. So it wouldn't make any difference.
I mean, I literally just got they got near me, so I just led on the floor. Okay, yeah, you
just, yeah, all right, mate. Yeah.
And I was led down. I was like, this is how I'm going to go out. I didn't want to go, and I was just told they're like, "Oh, you've got to go because we need you to do the ritual." And I was like, "I don't want to do this." And then I got cut down and just bleeding out, and I was like, "Wow." But that's fine.
I'd say that's your fault for going.
The amount of times that I'm just minding my own business and somebody from your coven comes up and is like, "Where's Saren? We've got to do a ritual." Like, I don't... Somewhere.
I don't know
No.
Somewhere.
Probably having a shower or he's asleep. Like, I don't know.
There are two states of Saren. Showering or sleeping.
Yeah, pants or no pants. Who knows?
Sometimes it's pants on in the shower.
Sometimes it gets confused. For me, I think one of the best moments I touched quite briefly earlier. So we had a really rough battle. Well, it was the whole field, right? So the way the field is currently at the current size, you've got an open field and you've got woods, and it's pretty much split up the middle. There's a bit where it crosses over, and the rest of it's like fenced and with a couple of gates. And for whatever fucking stupid reason, Wintermark were moving up through the woods. Everyone else is in the open field. Wintermark get up to the top and then immediately get pushed back down. Adair dies, fucking Stitch dies, loads of people die. We get pushed out the gate and backwards. Like we sort of get like, it was like a potato masher, right? Like we're just squeezing out all of the holes that are available to us. So I ended up through the gate and immediately I'm behind the Brass Coastline. You know, I've got friends in the Brass Coast, particularly Sam, who's plays a radio, and I see him like, hey, here we go, great, this is awesome. There's a Jotun line, but they're 30 feet off. They're just facing the Brass Coast, and they're just kind of jeering at each other. And there's like 3 Jotun that have pushed right the way forwards, and they're about 10 feet in front of the Brass Coast line, just taunting them. So me and Sam are like, should we just rush these guys? So we're both fucking mages. We both go right to the end of the Brass Coast line and just run behind these guys. Run up. I shatter this guy's. I can't remember if it was his sword or his shield, one or the other. Just run up, shatter. The Brass Coast line erupts, and then I immediately get cut down. Just down to the ground. Brass Coast drag me back, cheering, pick me back up again, and I do that. I charge the line. I came back with 2 traumatic wounds. I got taken down like 5 times that battle, and It was wonderful, and I loved it. It was so good. And again, just having a whole line, like just like 1 or 2 battle mages running through a heavily armored line, and everyone's like, "Way!"
Yeah, that's cool.
It was so good.
You're up, Mark.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I guess the last. You guys know my memory is horrendous anyway, but my last memory of doing anything remotely magey on the battlefield probably would have been one of the few times we've ran with the icebreakers, and I just have a really vivid memory of there being Wintermarker with a shield, Wintermarker with a shield, Wintermarker with a shield, Wintermarker with a shield. 9 to 10 of us just with staffs. Wintermarker with a shield, Wintermarker with a shield. But then we all just erupted into like a giant, shatter, and just suddenly this massive pocket of enemies are without weapons, and all they can do is fold in on themselves. It's really cool. It's really cool to see, and it's cool to think that you've made quite a sizable dent in the enemy.
There's definitely an argument for breaking enemy weapons at Empire is almost more valuable than killing them, because if you kill them, they probably go back and respawn. If you break their weapons, they just can't do anything. They're just there. They exist, but they're just in your way, but they can't physically hurt you anymore. So because you can't beat people.
I've never had
no fisticuffs.
Obviously, I haven't had any experience with mage calls, but there's something about having a cool ability, like a cool. So I monstered last event and I had strike down, And there's just having that power. Like imagine you're the same with Shatter, where someone's like go to fight you, and you're like, yeah, strike down, and they're like, oh no,
Yeah.
or something like that. Same, I imagine you're just like, off you go, Shatter, please, and then I'm like, oh no,
Yeah, how could this have happened? Yeah,
your arrogance. You're like, yes, you don't know what I've got, do you?
yeah. It is very fun. Like, particularly, you get like a Jotun line, and there's a guy with a massive shield, and he's like holding an entire Wintermark line back. You're like, oh, Shatter. And he's like, oh, shit. Throws it on the floor, and suddenly there's a big gap. Or, like, yeah, there's like the one guy in the line holding off the rest because he's got like a 7-foot pole arm. And you just shatter it. And suddenly it's not there.
I'm not sure if you'll find if Shatter's going to be more popular going forward, just because of how popular pole arms are and how annoying pole arms are. So I'm wondering, everyone's going to be like, we just need to get, because again, like if you have, say, if Wintermark had like 30 mages that have a Shatter, like the front line can bump up into the enemy front line, and then it only takes like everyone just call one Shatter, and then that the front line's screwed. Like you know,
yeah, absolutely.
Be interesting to see. I don't know. Maybe that's the captain's jobs to organise.
There's a lot of people that definitely want to get some more 9-foot pikes on the field, but it's just how do you get them to the field? It's one of those weird PD rules where it's like, you're allowed a 9-foot pike. How you transport it is very much up in the air, though.
Oh, am I right in thinking you can have screw together ones?
You can. They have passed weapon checks sometimes, but they're not common at all. I think there's a particular way to do it safely.
I've seen one functioning. Yeah, so basically, V reckons no.
V reckons you can. I think I've heard that somebody's managed it, but I get it's like that thing with like curved weapons. Like they just weren't a thing for so long, and suddenly somebody managed to do it, and now they're appearing more and more. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's up to the weapons checkers, and weapons checkers can't say yes or no until they physically have a weapon in their hands.
I guess the problem with the screw together one is you've got to I guess the fact that they could probably put their fingers in between the two bits of foam going together, and then I'd imagine if they could feel core, then that's it.
Yeah, the risk is obviously it comes apart, and then you've got an exposed end of whatever it is, and that's suddenly incredibly unsafe, or it breaks mid-combat. Yeah, it's just a big worry. But yeah, like V said, like I know, yeah, certainly one of the enormous groups in Wintermark rent storage off the farmer, and so they keep their 9-foot pikes in a container on site. But that's a private thing they've organised off their own backs.
I've had this idea of like the Wintermark wood camp chipping together and just getting like a container tucked in the corner. You could spray it camo, like you could camo it up, chuck it in the far corner of the woods. No one's going to see it or are interested in seeing it, and then you could all just store your stuff there.
Yeah.
Again, this is not for PD if they had a permanent site.
It's a good idea until like if you were to chip in with everyone in the woods, people in the woods are, leaving the woods camp now. So then what happens to the people that have put in for it?
I imagine it's something PD will do when they have a permanent site, because it's just such an easy thing to make a little bit more money on. Like you rent out portions of cargo containers. Like you don't even have to rent you could rent the whole thing out, but you could just be like, you have a shelf in this container, it costs you 40 quid a year, whatever it is.
There's people who say travel from Europe or something, or even Canada and America. Like if you could be like, oh yeah, you can have your 8-foot spear, you can just keep it on site. Like I'm sure someone would pay like £100 a year or £40 a year, whatever.
If it was affordable, I'd probably do it for like some stuff. Like we don't use our tent outside of Empire. Like it's a 40-kilo tent. Can I just put in a cargo container for the rest of the year, please? Yeah,
that would be good.
I would love it as an option. I think it would be great. That's just me.
Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't covered?
Yes. Which I don't know how much we're going to talk about, but I put a little thing about Sam. I put area effects. So battlefield area effect things, bracket.
Oh, miasmas and stuff. Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anything else alongside miasma. I know miasma's a thing. I don't know if there's any other versions.
There's variations on them. So the way they normally do it is you normally have a smoke machine on, and it's normally green. It's either a green or a yellow smoke. Green smoke green smoke can denote two things. It can either denote green lung, which is a thing you come across in Valorn controlled areas, and it can also denote venom, which is typically when you find the Druge, you'll come across it. Although it hasn't happened for a while now. I don't know whether that's maybe a safety thing that's come up, or whether the machine isn't available, or they've just not thought about it maybe in a couple of years. But yeah, green's normally venom, which means basically if you enter the smoke, you are venomed. And yellow is normally weakness, so if you enter the smoke, you have the weakness effect applied to you, and it's generally just called miasma. It'll be called Druge miasma or whatever.
Yeah.
Normally come across weakness when you're around. I think when we've had like undead, like specters and stuff, they've had it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've seen it once. I think I've seen Druge miasma, and I don't think they've done it for a while, and I've no idea why. Maybe somebody can comment and say, because I've never thought to ask.
I think the last fight I did, there was the venom stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but that was as like we were monstering,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to fighting against it. So it might have even been last year. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But again, essentially, they are points on the battlefield that are smoked out, and like you said, you probably want to avoid them.
Yeah.
Which...
Yeah, it's a really cool like effect. Like, I love a good smoke machine, but yeah, it's just anything to add immersion, really, stuff like that. Again,
Yeah.
like we were talking earlier, like about forts and stuff, it comes under that same umbrella, right? It's just something else on the field that's a little bit different, a little bit more unusual, adds a bit of variation.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Viridian in the chat just asked about mana, and yeah, you start with 4 mana.
Yeah, I was going to say I've already forgotten how many we start with.
Yeah,
but yeah.
4 mana is what you start with. You can buy the extra mana skill, which gives you 2 mana every time you pay for it, and it increases by cost by 1 XP. I think it starts at 2. It costs 1 more every time.
And that 4 mana resets every day, doesn't it?
Yeah, at the start of every day.
Or
I think
you
is the way it's
can
written.
use
Yeah.
items or potions to stock it back up.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes, yeah. There's some like area effects I think that you can have for it, but yeah. There's various ways to top up.
Yeah. So like Sam would use personal mana for these spells and stuff. Like I've found I've been using it for cast portal to go to Hall of Worlds.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's why I can be a bit tight with it. Like people are like, oh, can you break a bond on this weapon? Like, nah. I need that 1 mana to
Not
go
with
on
my
skirmish,
mana.
I'm sorry. Like, can you heal me? Are you dying? No, can't heal you. Sorry. But that's because I've got 8 mana. It costs me in-character money to replenish that before the end of the day, because I'm either having to pay for like a tea to get it back, or I'm gonna have to use a potion, and potions aren't terribly cheap. So particularly when I've got 8 mana, if I want to go from 0 to 8, that's quite an expensive way of doing things. So I just try not to.
Trying to find a picture of some of the venom smoke, because I'm sure I've seen it in a picture recently, but as you can expect, there are a lot of pictures out there.
Yep.
Peridian's again asked, how much does the spell cost? So we covered it earlier. So sort of normal spells are 1 mana each, aren't they? And then offensive spells are 1 mana, and there's a couple of spells that cost 2 mana. So yeah,
it depends what you're casting, essentially.
Yeah. What I will say, like I think they've jokingly said, does Meteor cost 4, but it kind of plays into the idea of or the topic of how spells work in Empire versus what you might think of as a stereotypical LARP, like maybe what you see in American media or something. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no beanbags being thrown or anything like that at Empire. It's done very well. All the calls in Empire are very simple and very easy to remember. There aren't locational hits you have to worry about, like in terms of hit points for like your arms and your legs and stuff. Like you have 4 hits or whatever you have total, and like your arm can be ruined, but that's a separate thing. The spells are all to do with contact. So contact with a defensive spell is contact with your mage implement, be it a wand, rod, or a staff. And with regular spells, so if you're casting heal, you need to, I will say you need to be able to touch the person, lay a hand on the person. You always need to ask, like, if you're touching anybody with anything other than a LARP safe implement or weapon, you need to say, "Oh, can I put my hand on you?" Unless obviously you know them and you know they're going to be okay with it. But
they die. I see.
Yeah.
You didn't.
But yeah, what I tend to do is I hover. Like if I'm if I'm looting or I'm healing, I hover a hand over somebody rather than actually touching them. It just saves me even having to ask the question. Yeah, but for all intents and purposes,
I am looting you.
Yeah.
Another question: what is the most powerful spell? Again, very situational. But we were talking earlier that paralysis seems quite strong.
Paralysis is strong. Like totally immobilizes them for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
The way Empire works is you take a maximum of 1 damage per second per source, so per person hitting you, basically.
Oh, I didn't realize it was per source. I assumed.
So you can still take 5 damage a second if there's 5 people hitting you. Yeah. It's hard to keep track of, but yeah, it's possible. But yeah, so paralysis is very strong, and shatter is incredibly strong because it just destroys weapons and shields. So
I think shatter is probably the strongest because I think it's going to be the most used.
And like I said earlier, when you're against monsters who respawn, like there's a weird thing with Empire where monsters are under way less threat than players because their characters just respawn, like when the refs tell them to respawn, which adds to like a whole morale aspect. Like monsters inevitably have much better morale because who cares? But if you break the weapons, they're still on the field. They just can't hurt you.
I didn't respawn in the last battle as a monster, which is annoying.
I normally don't.
I was just monstering for 45 minutes, got killed, because I was like, oh, do you know what? Get myself killed, and because I ran out of hero calls, went over to the spawn location, and just didn't get to respawn. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I like to think it's like personal skill, but it's not. Like the level, the amount of people on the field now, I think lends itself to the monsters fill an area quite easily. So if you die, you're just 1 in 500 or something stupid, and you go to respawn. And I think like I normally die like once per battle as monster now, and then I go to respawn. I inevitably, like you say, I sit there for 30 to 45 minutes, and then I just fuck off when I'm told to. Last battle, like it got to like the last 20 minutes, and like you can go back if you want. And I'm like, I'm tired of them sway, and you really don't need me now. So
I failed. I can't find a picture. Can't find the picture I was looking for. There's some with just like white smoke, but I don't think white smoke has a.
I think it's just.
I remember back in the day, one of my first event or something, they were just putting smoke around for fun.
Oh yeah. There was like 1 or 2 dedicated smoke machine operators that.
Yeah, the pyro, didn't
they? Well, they used to do it through the gate. You remember every time I think it was every time we went through the gate, they used to throw smoke.
Yeah. But then they had the people running around with the mobile smoke machines, which was just like
that's what I was thinking of.
A thing that you swing it around. It's like a giant candle holder with smoke coming out of it.
Like a sensor, yeah. I recently got to do some work on a smoke machine, which was really cool at LARP. I was really privileged to be invited by the special effects team to give them a hand. And I was introduced to 2 types of smoke machines, and one was like a proper professional smoke machine, and it takes canisters. I think one's like a condensed oil that turns into smoke when it evaporates, and one's the I think it's propane that basically heats it up. Problem is, both those cans cost about £10 each, and when you're running at full blast, they last for about 4 minutes. The other version where we were using is actually not a smoke machine. It is it's used for evaporating like stuff like insect repellent. Basically works the same. Like you have a propane can in the back and you have a reservoir of oil and you pump it instead and it sucks the oil through. It's a little bit less 6 minutes I've been told is how they so insect foggers is what we're using. It's a little bit less reliable because we're kind of using it for a purpose it's not intended for, but it still works. But they last way longer and they're so much cheaper to run. So that maybe that's why they're not running them, is because they're fucking like the machines themselves are fucking expensive and they're incredibly expensive to run.
Just get some dry ice.
Yeah, can you imagine? Can you imagine a player like, oh,
Yeah.
my finger's fallen off?
Yeah. It's fine. It's immersion. Ah. Cool. Well, I think that was a natural question time towards the end of the stream. So that was good.
Yeah.
Have we got anything else we want to cover, or are we good?
I
Happy?
can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Ready to be a battle mage, Matt?
Yeah, I'd love if I had the XP. I'd love to. But...
Maybe in another life.
It can be quite XP like heavy is the only thing with it, because you're having to buy mage, battle mage, and then extra spells.
Yeah,
I can't remember if you get a spell from taking mage. That's the only thing.
You get 2?
just the 3 spells from mage. I think.
Oh yeah, not just for mage. It's the 3 starter spells, isn't it? The detect magic and that. Then you have to buy extra spells.
Hang on, yeah, I'm just looking it up just to be clear on it. Thing is, I've been playing Bear for quite a while now, so I've had quite a lot of XP, and I've just buy things. And I've kind of forgotten how much it costs. Yeah, no, you have to buy the extra spell. So yeah, it's an extra spell costs a single point, which is actually quite cheap, which is why I've got a whole bunch of spells now, because they're quite cheap to buy. But so it means, so what? Magician is 2 points, Battle Mage is 2 points. So that's 4. You start with 9, I think, off the top of my head. Buy an extra spell, so you've used 5 points by the time you've got 1 offensive spell, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's 9 you start with. But yeah, you could feasibly, I guess, have 4 offensive spells starting off. So it's not too bad if that's all you want to do. Yeah.
Side note, the Imperial, the realm staffs, the Archmage staffs, are they owned by PD?
Yes.
I was about to say, because on the wiki, it's showing on the magical skills, there's 2 characters with exactly the same staff, and I'm pretty sure they're
the staffs are owned by PD, and you also get a talisman, and I'm not sure if that's just the ribbon, or if you get like a necklace with it as well.
Cool.
I can't remember.
Very cool.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, I think if we come to a sort of natural conclusion,
yeah,
is it worth mentioning what we're doing next time, Mark?
Yes. So next we have our second of our 10 nation episodes, and we have the marches, episode 2, and I'm sure that'll be full of various shout outs of "All right, my love," and
just
various
talking
other
about cider for an hour.
Yeah.
They're very fun are the marches, so
yeah, so that'd be good. We've got
Fun Nation.
Yeah, we've got that coming up. And then the rest of the nations, they're sort of spread out throughout the year, mixed in amongst some other bits that we have. We have a priest episode quickly approaching. I think it might be the one after.
Yeah,
the
I think we're
marches.
going to deep dive more into the actual priest game rather than, obviously we've done one on the way, but this is going to be about what priests can get up to. I know we kind of covered a bit of it, but we've got more time to go into priests a bit more.
Yes.
Which we're looking forward to.
Yeah, and then we've got E2 also swiftly approaching.
Less than 4 weeks away.
Yeah, where we hope to get some more lovely content. Matt did a very good job on the last one. Hopefully, I'll be there to back him up.
We'll do a better job next time.
Yeah, although I think generally it's been pretty well received. If you haven't seen it already, check out our YouTube for all of the previous videos, including this one. Will be going up in the future. Definitely by the end of the coming week. If I can get it edited in time before I go to sleep tonight, basically. You'll see it Wednesday.
Have an enjoyable holiday.
Yeah. If it doesn't come out until Friday, you know that it didn't go well.
It did not. One more question, Sam. Would you rather? Question was posed by the Would you rather stay in Birchen Hall or move to Varushka? There you go.
Absolutely, move to Varushka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
She asked and you answered.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't stand Birchinal, frankly. Just
no.
the worst.
Yeah. Well,
Face.
on that note, is he still your favourite Birchen Hall after that comment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
Soon to be your favourite Varushkan. Yeah.
My favourite Varushkan. To be honest, so.
There you go. I
Yeah.
know.
Your
Only a
first
couple,
Varushkan that we know. Cool. All right, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you very much, Sam, for coming on and chatting to us about Battle Magic. And again, everyone, make sure you're in the unofficial Discord. Get involved. Have a lovely time. And we'll see you at the next one.
Bye.
Until then,
Bye.
much love. Bye.